I was reading an article in a Psychology Today magazine. The article was talking about the 10 most difficult jobs in the world. So before I read the article, I said to myself, I got to get a pencil and a piece of paper. I'm going to put some thought into this, and I wrote down what I thought would be the 10 most difficult jobs in the world, and then after I did that, I read the article. Once I read the article, I then discovered that my list of 10 conjecture was annihilated by the article. It turned out to be that for the most difficult job in the world, I had listed the Pope on my little list. And the second most difficult job in the world, I had the President of the United States. Now, when I read the article, they had something completely different as the absolute most difficult job in the world. What do you think was listed there in that article? Exactly right. I hear a couple of people say it. It's this job right here. The job of being a parent. I never thought of it until I read that in the article, and I said to myself, that's the truth. You know, they say that the type of world we have tomorrow is predicated upon the type of parents we have today. Parents are the primary educators of their children in the ways of faith, morals, and life. When a parent does their job and they pass on such great quality education, understanding on to the sons and daughters, why there is no substitute for it. It turns out to be that today's gospel reading is built upon the idea of a quality parent. Now, today's gospel reading comes out of the 10th chapter of John, verses 1 to 10 inclusive. What we want to do is look at verse 3 and 4, because Jesus is used an analogy. The analogy of sheep to shepherd, which is what he's trying to say, is the relationship between parent and child. Let's take a look at verse 3 and 4 of the 10th chapter of John. Now the sheep hear his voice, that his is a reference to the shepherd. As the shepherd calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has driven out all his own, he walks ahead of them, and the sheep follow him, and there it is, because they recognize his voice. The sheep recognize the voice of the shepherd. The only way the shepherd could get the sheep to recognize his voice, he has to spend time with them, a considerable amount of time with the sheep. Now the same thing happens in life. The only way a child can recognize the voice of the parent has to spend time with the child, a considerable amount of time. And the more time a parent spends with their child, then they develop this bond, a relationship, and trust is therefore built. Now we're going to discover in verse 5 what happens when you don't have the time given between sheep and shepherd and everything falls apart. What are the sheep, the children, going to do? Let's take a look at verse 5. There it is. But they, that's third person plural, that's a reference to the sheep. But they will not follow the stranger. They will run away from him because they do not recognize the voice of strangers. Now, a parent is going to say to themselves, I want my children to be safe in this world. In order to do that, I have to make sure I develop a relationship with them because they will follow my voice. They will not follow the voice of a stranger. So if a stranger walks up to your son or daughter and says, little one, come here, they're going to do what? If they have a relationship with the voice of mom and dad, run away. Why? Because they will say, I do not recognize that voice. I recognize the voice of my parents. When they tell me to do this, I do it. When they say don't do that, I think about it. But I recognize the voice of my parents. And when a stranger is in my presence and the stranger says, come on, get into the car. When you have a strong relationship from mom and dad, that's going to give you what you need to say no. I only listen to my parents. Why? Because I trust them. They have never told me to do anything that would hurt me. There I follow what they say. That's what that 5th verse of the 10th chapter of John is talking about. You know, many years ago when I was the first, I became a pastor over St. Joseph's Parish in Derry, which is a nice little town located between Latrobe and Blairsville. One very cold January day, I'm out on my communion calls, and I'm on this back road out in the middle of nowhere. And as I'm cresting this hill, I see something move along the side of the road. I said to myself, what was that? So I turned the car around, and I went back, and it was a little teeny weeny puppy. Little puppy. So I pulled the car off the side of the road, and I ran up to the puppy. Little puppy runs up to me, and I said, little dog, I'm going to put you in a car. I clearly assumed that someone threw the dog out of the car, got rid of this litter of pups. So I put him in a car, and I had a heater on, and I decided to go look for his brothers and sisters. I couldn't find any other dogs. So I got back in the car, and I drove straight to the veterinarian to see what was going on. It looked like a very, very young little puppy. The veterinarian quickly told me that the dog was probably about 6 weeks old, really too old to leave the care of its mother, father. So then he explained to me what I would need to do in order to bring this little dog to a little bit a mature level. So he explained it to me, and I got back to the rectory, and I said to the little dog, well, guess what? You're mine. I'm yours. And then I got to do what a parent gets to do, and you know, the parents are the one that picks your name. I guess that's the job of being a parent. So I looked at my little dog and I said, I get to pick your name. So I went with my absolute favorite name of all the names in the world. I love the name. It's an Italian name, Vincenzo. Vincenzo. So I said, your name's going to be Vincenzo. It's Vincent in English. So your name will be Vincenzo. I love the name Vincenzo. So after I named him Vincenzo, I thought to myself, you know, Vincenzo, I'm going to do something a little different with you. I'm going to teach you every dog command in Italian. You'll know absolutely no English, all Italian. When the sheep hear the voice of the shepherd, they recognize it. And that only relationship occurs when you spend time. So I put a lot of time and effort into teaching Vincenzo every dog command in Italian. Took about a year, but I got it done. And it was fun doing it, actually. One day, Vincenzo and I were walking through the town of Derry. It's a beautiful summer day. There's this husband and wife. They're parishioners of the parish. They're out in the yard cleaning out their flower bed. So Vincenzo and I stopped to have a nice little conversation with his family. And we're just talking, and Vincenzo, I might have said this, but he was a beagle. So we're standing there talking to the family, and little Vincenzo, he starts to bark. And one thing about beagles, they could bark all day long. These guys never get tired. They bark, bark. So Vincenzo and I are standing there, and little Vincenzo's barking his head off, and the fella couldn't take it anymore. The husband said to Vincenzo, stop barking. Vincenzo kept barking. A couple minutes went by, the fella I'm sure he's frazzled. He says to my dog, stop that barking. The dog keeps barking. I keep talking. A couple minutes go by, the guy said to the dog, stop barking. And I said to the guy and his wife, I said, he doesn't know English. And they got real apologetic. Oh, I didn't know that. No one said anything. I didn't know he didn't know English. So very apologetic. I said, no, Vincenzo only knows Italian. So I looked at Vincenzo. He's still barking. He never gave up on the barking. I said, Vincenzo, basta, which means enough. And he stopped on a dime. I'm so proud of him. He stopped right then and there. Now, to show Vincenzo off, and I guess this is what you get to do as a parent, so I decided to throw out a few other dog commands in Italian so he would do them. And I gave him a couple dog commands in Italian, to roll over, give me paw, all those things in Italian. And he did every one of them perfectly in Italian. The wife said to me, how did you get that dog out of Italy? And I told her, I didn't get the dog out of Italy. I got him from along the side of the road, right out here about a mile away. And then she said something to me, and you could tell that she was confused. And she said to me, how did you know that dog would know Italian? And I said to her, here's what happens. that dog will learn whatever it is I taught him. Dogs are just like human beings. I could have taught that dog Russian, Japanese, had I known those languages. Maybe that's what I would have done. It's the same thing as a child. I said to this family, if a parent teaches their child morals and value, what will they then possess? Morals and values. If they're not taught, they will not understand and have morals and values. That's the essence of life. That's relationship of sheep to shepherd, parent to child. The only way you grow those relationships is to take the time to teach, to guide, to educate. So this gospel reading is a beautiful gospel, but it really highlights the importance of being a parent, of being a good parent. You know, we're really blessed here from what I noticed. We are blessed to have what I would say are really, really good parents. I am impressed by our parents. And every time I'm talking to a family, typically a young family, because young families have young children, and I can see that the parents are concerned and are trying to give the time their sons and daughters need, I always say to myself, little ones, you don't realize this yet, but you will one day. You don't realize right now how blessed you are. Because what you got in your home are a great mother and a great father. You have great parents or great guardians or great grandparents that are going to take care of you, spend time to educate you, to guide you, to help you understand and learn what you need to understand and learn in today's world. They don't realize that sometimes. And sometimes we really don't understand that until we get older. Because when you're blessed with a good parent who offers guidance, many times their guidance is included with the word no. No, you can't go here and you can't go there. And we see mom and dad as stick in the mud and restrictive and not much fun at all. We get older and then we realize how blessed I was. To have someone courageous enough in my life to a lot of times say yes, to courageously, at the peril of my relationship to them, to say no, when they knew that something wasn't good for me. What an asset that is. When you are blessed with a parent that uses the word no, you can't go here, you can't do this, you can't do that. Not because I'm in a bad mood today, because I know that's what you need for tomorrow. So I'd like to conclude with this. Again, as I said, we are really lucky here in Lower Borough, St. Margaret and Mary, to have great parents. I would have to say the Psychology Today magazine, they were right. The most difficult job in the world, I would have to assess, is the job of being a parent. Because the type of world we have tomorrow is predicated on the type of parents we have today. So I think the only proper thing to do to thank and show gratitude to our parents, our good parents, which we're blessed to have great parents here, is to give our moms and dads, our parents, guardians, grandparents, whoever is taking on that role, to give them a round of applause for taking on that incredible role. Now we're blessed this morning to have a couple little ones. They're going to be baptized. I would ask our little ones to be baptized. Please follow me to the baptismal font.